What is going on, Headliner Nation? It's not me and Kyle. I can see some of these chats going through. No, it's me and Chris. We're coming to you live tonight, and we weren't really planning it. I kind of sprung this on Chris last minute, and we had to put out a post, right? We owe some draft guides to some people, but I didn't want to just do a boring post. We figured we'd hop on here for an hour, Chris and myself, and interact with the community a little bit, spend a little bit of time with you guys, not just put out a boring post, but yes, we will announce those winners of the draft guides here in a few minutes. But Chris, you looking forward to making your YouTube live debut?
I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Yeah, no, it's going to be a little bit different than doing the pre-recorded shows with Kyle. But I'm nice to finally be able to join you for a video here. So let's get after it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a lot of fun. We got the chats up. We're going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. Try to have a little bit of fun here tonight before we head back into our normal, I guess you can call it a normal work week tomorrow. I mean, it may not be normal for a lot of people, but what we'll do before we get into more questions, I'm going to go ahead and throw the graphic up real quick just so people know exactly who won the draft guides, because both myself and Kyle gave away 2 draft guides on shows that we had here this week. All you had to do is leave a comment down below. We randomly selected 4 winners, and those winners are right here on the screen. We have Twisper21, Michael Chu, Justin B, and Brian Bain. So we're going to go ahead and respond to those comments on those videos after this live stream, but send us over an email. The link is down below in the description, and we'll hook you guys up with a free 2020 fantasy football draft guide, going to be #HellaFire. I saw somebody throw that in the chat earlier, so I figured I'd use it here early in the stream.
Well done.
But yeah, absolutely, I had to do it because that's kind of like an in memory of Kyle right now, because Kyle's not here to say something like that, so I said it for him. But we're going to go in here and start answering some questions, having some fun, both myself and Chris, because I cannot talk for an hour straight. So Chris will, I'll say we'll tag team it, but that's kind of weird. But anyway,
I mean, I'm okay with it if you are. So
not on the internet. No, it's just weird. All right.
Sorry, guys.
Carlos though is already telling you that you have a nice haircut. And
thank you, Carlos.
People have watched here for a few weeks. They realized that your hair was getting out of control. It was like a scene of Teen Wolf there for a little bit.
Yeah, between the hair and the overgrown patchy facial hair, I was a hot mess to say the least. So it's nice to lose about 10 pounds on the top of my head.
Yeah, because I'm sure you need to lose 10 pounds as much as some of us do. Anyway, what about, here's a first question I'm going to ask you, Chris. It's from Finesse God. It says, Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara in a PPR league. Who you got this year?
So this year, I really like Dalvin Cook. I actually right now currently have him as my RB3. And don't get me wrong, I love Alvin Kamara. I think he's still going to be a top 5, top 6 running back. But the addition of Emmanuel Sanders does concern me a little bit as far as, what kind of receptions he might be seeing, especially in short yardage situations. So for me, Dalvin Cook.
I mean, we're going to disagree a little bit. I still think that this is the bounce back for Alvin Kamara. We know he wasn't 100% healthy. And as much as I totally agree that Emmanuel Sanders will eat into some of that offense, I think the division they're in and the amount of offense that they're going to have to continue to keep their foot on the gas in this division. They're not going to be able just to let up. I can see, a little bit extra out of Drew Brees. The window is closing there for him. I don't hate Alvin Kamara, especially in PPR leagues. The guy's had, 81 receptions for 3 straight years. That's like a record for the exact same number of receptions. I mean, he's consistent.
And the two guys are only going like a couple spots after each other. So they are pretty much neck and neck there.
Yep, agreed. What about Zeke or Kamara?
Oh, I'm going Zeke here. I know that they added a lot of weapons on offense, especially the receiver position, but I love the move for Zeke. I think that it's going to the addition of CeeDee Lamb is going to help open up some running lanes for him. I think that defense is going to be so focused on the pass that, the Cowboys offensive line is still top 3, top 4 in the NFL. So I like Zeke right now as my RB2 behind CMC.
Yeah, I mean, Zeke's kind of another one of those guys, right? You know what to expect kind of going in. You know you're going to get 300 carries. How involved in the passing game is he going to be? That's the question. But otherwise, you pretty much know what you're going to get there. What about, let's see. We had to pick two to keep in a Superflex PPR league. Wow. Talk about an embarrassment of riches. We got Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, and Lamar Jackson. Which 2 are you keeping in a PPR Superflex league? You can pick 2.
Gosh, that is a great problem to have. But it's a no-brainer for me. I'm going Lamar Jackson and Saquon.
I think that's where I go too.
Yeah.
I hate to let Kamara just go, but in a Superflex league, Lamar's got to be one of those choices. Absolutely.
Agreed.
How about we got Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp, or DJ Moore in a PPR league for TJ Schumann?
Sorry, you said Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, and who else?
Todd Gurley.
And Todd Gurley. I'm going DJ Moore. I love DJ Moore and his potential. He's my pick there.
It really kind of depends for me what the situation is. I mean, if I had to choose between one of them, I think Todd Gurley has a lot better year than people are expecting. But, I mean, I kind of don't want him to be my running back one. I mean, I don't know if you get to keep some of these guys or exactly what it is, but I think DJ Moore may be the safest option. The highest ceiling may be Kupp, and then maybe Gurley, maybe somewhere right there in the middle. But I love my running backs. I have an addiction to early round running backs. I'm not afraid.
We'll call it a passion.
No,
it's addiction.
It's
Fair
addiction.
Yeah,
it is. It's addiction. Let's see here. Look at Kyle himself is in the chat. He's cheering you on. He says, "Let's go, Chris." He doesn't give two craps about me, but at least he's rooting you on, Chris.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing, Kyle. Who is the best rookie wide receiver, Chris? This is from A. Larson.
So the best as far as talent wise for me, it's CeeDee Lamb. He's been my rookie wide receiver one for the last few months now. I do think for this season in particular, Jalen Reagor from Philly is probably going to be my number one rookie wide receiver for fantasy purposes just in 2020.
Yeah, Jalen Reagor and for me, Justin Jefferson kind of up there towards the top for this year.
Yeah.
And the reason being is they're going to have an immediate target share, right? They're going to a team where we know they're going to get volume. A lot of these other guys are very skilled and talented, but they may not see the targets that those two have. So, yeah, Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, 1 and 2 right there for me. Let's see here. TJ wants to know if we want the lone boner. The fact that you're thinking about it for this long has me concerned. But shout out to the lone boner. Mac is probably out there chilling right now, watching us, laughing because he's responsible for said lone boner.
It's true. Hashtag just one wing.
Just one wing. We're going to put that on a shirt at some point, and people are going to wear it.
Yeah,
and it's
they're going to buy it. I'm going to buy it.
Well, yeah, I don't know why Kyle is sending eggplant emojis, but okay. Let's see here. Cole Train says no love for Jerry. I'm guessing he's talking Jerry Jeudy. And it's not that I dislike Jerry Jeudy personally, but he's got to deal with Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant. They have Melvin Gordon in the backfield with Phillip Lindsay. He's just got more weapons in that offense to compete with. What do you think about Jeudy?
I love Jeudy as a talent, but the fact that their starting quarterback, Drew Lock, has only played 5 or 6 games in the NFL, I do want to see a little bit more from him. But going forward, I know in Dynasty especially, absolutely love Jerry Jeudy.
Yep, agreed. Let's see here. Ian Salter with a little donation there. Appreciate you. Absolutely. Thank you for that support. He says, say Foles starts in Chicago. Mm-hmm. The race for the suckiest quarterback, who maybe Foles wins it. How do we feel about Anthony Miller if Foles is the starting quarterback?
So I don't know for me personally, I don't think it really makes a difference of who the quarterback is, whether it's Trubisky or Foles when it comes to Anthony Miller. I've had him on one of my dynasty teams for a few seasons now, about 2 years now, and he just hasn't really taken that next step, or at least not that next step that you really want to see. So if I'm in fantasy, if I'm going to be owning anybody from Chicago, at least on that receiving core, it's just going to be Allen Robinson, Montgomery, and Tariq Cohen. And everybody else, I'm kind of just absolutely leaving alone.
Yeah, I think if it's Trubisky under center, I still love Allen Robinson more than the other pieces in that offense. If it goes to Foles, I can see it spread around a little bit more, and maybe some of that high ceiling of Allen Robinson goes away. But I really don't think it's going to affect Anthony Miller too much.
No.
Let's see here. Hazelnut, he's out there in the chat. What's going on, Nut? He says he took Mims with his last pick. What do you think of Denzel Mims? A lot of people loved him. Then he went to the Jets, who suck. It's not really the Jets. I'm sorry, all Jets fans. It's Adam Gase, who sucks.
Right.
He just kills fantasy value all over the place. But what do you think about Denzel Mims?
I really like the talent. I just don't like the situation because Adam Gase is one who doesn't like to run a lot of offensive plays. And I think that in that offense in particular, we've seen what Sam Darnold can do with Jamison Crowder. I think Crowder is going to be the number one guy there, getting the majority of the targets. We'll see what happens with Le'Veon Bell. But don't forget, they did sign Brashad Perriman to a 1-year, $6.5 million deal as well. And we've seen what he can do when he's the wide receiver 2 on a team. Last year in Tampa Bay, last 3 games of the season, he averaged over 100 receiving yards, 6 catches per game. I believe he had 3 total touchdowns. So there really can be a decent number of mouths to feed. And don't forget, Chris Herndon the fourth is also back from injury as well. So as much as I love Mims' talent, I don't trust Adam Gase to really produce, fantasy studs.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is it's Gase. Look what happened when he left Miami. I mean, all of a sudden, fantasy Bigfoot Devontae Parker, he's like a thing now. Kenyon Drake, goes away and then he's something. I mean, it's Adam Gase. Had a good question here. Let me see if I can go back and find it because it was going by a little quick. Oh, here we go. It's from, I'm going to butcher however you say this.
Uh-oh.
Just saying it up front. Drozandamar. Sorry. Thoughts on Clyde Edwards-Helaire in PPR? Been seeing him go as high as late second round in some mock drafts, and I'm not so sure I'd take him that high. In my opinion, that's because you are a smart human being. To me, that's too early for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, Dynasty League, okay, I get it, but in a regular redraft, mock draft, second round is not something I'm willing to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Nothing against the talent, nothing against the landing spot, but I'm not 100% sold that Damian Williams isn't somewhat involved here, at least to start the season.
Yeah, right now in redraft formats, FFPC and best ball 10s, he's going at 211 right now as the number 14 overall running back. And I currently have him as like a low end RB2 right now at RB21. So for me, he would have to drop down to like the late third, early fourth for me to, feel better about taking him. But I do like the talent. I like the situation. But around the end of the second round, there are other guys that I'd be safer with taking.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi wants to know if Jonnu Smith is a sleeper. We have mentioned Jonnu Smith a lot on this channel, and I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to give you a short answer of yes.
Yeah, I'm right Chris? There. I think yes is the best answer you can give.
Yes is sufficient? All right, perfect. Scott Fiore, thank you for the donation, my man. Appreciate you. It says pick 7. Oh, you're in pick 7, half PPR of a 12-team league. Who should you take? You got Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams, or Derrick Henry. Pick 7. What do you think, Chris? Are you going for one of the top wide receivers there in Devontae Adams, or are you going to kind of take one of those running backs before all of a sudden the second round comes around and you don't maybe have one of those top guys?
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna go with Cook with the running back just because wide receiver is so deep where you can get somebody later on where you really do want to make sure that you're able to grab one of those top running backs early. So I'm going to go with Cook.
Yeah. Personally, I mean, it's a PPR league, and yes, Cook will have a little bit more value. There may be some question marks surrounding Cook. I think we've seen a lot of Dalvin Cook questions actually lately. What's it going to be like this year for Cook? Should we sell high on him? And it really depends what you can get, I think, but it could be a little bit different, right? No Kevin Stefanski there. It's a different offense, but it's still going to be a run-heavy offense. Maybe Alexander Mattison gets a little bit more work this year to kind of keep, Dalvin Cook healthy. If you're worried about those questions, backing it up with Derrick Henry, who I think is still a safe play. I'm not expecting the same as last year. There will be some regression there, but he's safer if you don't want to take that risk, in my opinion. But I'm grabbing a running back. I'm not passing on a running back in round 1. Not this year. There are just way too many wide receivers. It's such a deep position this year.
Agreed.
We got Lior Colton, one of our writers. He's out there in the chat. I've seen
Lior.
Chris Chouse of ours. He's out there in the chat answering questions. Appreciate the guys out there taking some time out of their Sunday night to hang out here with you guys. Greatly appreciate it. Sumo Ninja, appreciate your support out there. It says stream support. Keep up the good content. Hashtag Filibertos. All right.
Oh.
Chris, do you have any idea what Filibertos is?
No, but I keep hearing you talk about it on the live stream specifically is when I hear you talk about it.
We got a couple guys out there from Arizona, me being from Arizona. And if you're from Arizona, you know all about Filibertos. It's about the best burrito you could get through a drive-thru, maybe in the country. It's amazing. unfortunately, out here on the West Coast, no Filibertos. Or on the East Coast, no Filibertos. But every time I go back there, what I may have to do is hit up Sumo Ninja and some of these guys the next time in Arizona. We all go to get some Filibertos together.
Little headliner
Filibertos
trip.
at midnight, Chris. You get a Filibertos burrito at midnight, your night is good.
No, it's kind of like when I went down to Houston to go visit my brother, and he and the family had to take me to Whataburger, which I'd never heard about before, and it was one of the better experiences that I've had. So I'm in it. I'm in for it.
You don't get to experience that out here on the East Coast. You just don't.
Especially where I'm on a very secluded island. I don't get to experience very much at all.
Not all of us can live on the vineyard. Okay, Chris?
Oh, stop it.
Let's see here. We had a question earlier who the best rookie wide receivers are. Mm-hmm. Kyle Rosa wants to know who the best rookie running back is.
Hands down, Jonathan Taylor for me. I know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire went 101 in a lot of rookie drafts in Dynasty formats so far this year. But for me, Jonathan Taylor is the number one guy, not only because of his talent, but the situation that he's currently in. Yes, he's not in an explosive offense like Kansas City, but he's running behind one of the best offensive lines in the league. He has an aging quarterback right now, and this is a team that's not going to be looking to put up 40 points a game, but they're going to be looking to really just utilize that offensive line. And they have Mac, they have Jonathan Taylor, and I think that Taylor is going to take over that backfield at some point this season and then going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it may be a little bit... what do you want to call it? It may be somewhat frustrating the first couple weeks for Jonathan Taylor owners. I do, like you just said, though, as the season progresses, this is going to be his job at some point. It just may be, luckily, I don't have a whole lot of Jonathan Taylor shares because I don't have the ability to lose much hair those first few weeks of the season. I just can't afford to take that risk at this point, Chris. I would not be YouTube ready if that were the case. I'd have to start wearing a hat. I may start wearing a hat anyway.
I do want to make one quick comment. Mr. Kyle Richardson asks if Filiberto's is better than Taco Bell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kyle, that's an amateur hour question.
Yeah, that's the dumbest question I've ever seen in a live chat. Absolutely, Filiberto's is way better. It's way better than the White Castle that Kyle took me to in Indiana. That was just, I literally stayed in the bathroom for like 3 days. I had to drive home from Indianapolis after the Combine after eating White Castle. Worst experience of my life. The Chicken YT. He wants to know if Devontae Parker is going to be any good.
All right. So Chicken, I actually was, I talked about this on one of the podcasts over for our Patreon program. If anyone is not signed up for Patreon, please go ahead and sign that up. We are doing bi-weekly podcasts, whole bunch of great exclusive content, DFS stuff for when the season actually begins. But as far as Devontae Parker is concerned, the majority of his production came after week 9 when Preston Williams went down with that torn ACL. Up until then, Preston Williams actually led the team in most of the receiving stats. So while I do like Parker's talent, with Preston Williams coming back healthy, I really do think that caps off his ceiling for this season. So I wouldn't really set my expectations too high for Parker on what we saw the second half of last year from him.
My biggest issue is I think people are going to overpay based off the last 8 weeks of last year.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the biggest problem. Not so much his lack of production, which I think does take a hit like you mentioned, but you're going to overpay for it because he's going to, have a lot of the talk. People are going to remember the last 8 weeks of the season and they're going to overdraft him. And it's going to be way too early. And we're not about drafting people if they're not of value. Theron Blair, see you out there, appreciate you, says Dynasty draft is tomorrow. Perfect timing.
Nice.
He has Burrow, Edwards, or Taylor. And I'm guessing you mean Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Jonathan Taylor or Joe Burrow. I don't know if it's a Superflex league, which would make a little bit of a difference. I think if it's a Superflex league, Joe Burrow is in the conversation. Otherwise, any other ones, I'm personally going with Jonathan Taylor.
Yep. Even if it's Superflex, I'm actually still going Jonathan Taylor. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just don't – nothing against Burrow. And it really depends if it is a Superflex league, if, what does your current team look like and what needs do you have? Is it a startup? There's some other questions there, but I think the safest bet of all of them is going to be Jonathan Taylor. A young offensive line, one of the best in football, and he'll have it for a long time. Let's see here. Yep. Fricker, Fricker or Freiser. Don't know how to say it. That's the worst part of YouTube is I don't know how to pronounce some of these things, so I'm sure I butcher most of them. He says, yeah, we don't overpay. Absolutely, we don't overpay. Let's see. How far do I go in my belief in Ridley? Do I take him as my wide receiver 1 or 2 in the 3rd or 4th round over a guy like Thielen or Beckham? So Calvin Ridley is...
Good question.
That's a great question. And Calvin Ridley is somebody who's getting a lot of hype and a lot of talk this offseason. And I like Calvin Ridley quite a bit. That's putting a lot of faith in Calvin Ridley, though. I mean, Adam Thielen, he'll be over 30 years old. Odell Beckham, everybody wants to hop off the Browns bandwagon and hate on them. But I do think Odell bounces back. That would be a tough one, though. Where would you go, Chris?
I'm okay. I'm absolutely okay with going Ridley over both of those guys, especially where their current ADPs are landing. Odell's going towards the end of the 3rd. Thielen is going in the middle of the 4th, and Ridley is going a little bit closer to the end of the 4th round. And I have all 3 of those guys ranked very closely right next to each other. So from a value standpoint, I think Ridley, absolutely, he has the opportunity to be a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. I do think that he's going to get the yardage to finally match that touchdown production that we've seen from him the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm all on board with Calvin Ridley this year.
Our boy True Legend is out here in the chat, and usually True Legend is all over Kyle. I mean, him and Kyle are like this. Apparently he sees you now, Chris, and he says that he'll give $100 for pictures of your feet.
$100, and you send me some Taco Bell, and we'll talk. I'll send you one foot. Wow. And I'll send you 1 foot, and then another $100. I'll send you the other foot.
Wow, I don't even want to be a part of this transaction. You guys figure that out on your own.
And then another $25, and you get a picture of the top of Jake's head.
I'll give you that for free. There you go. That's about all.
Just give away the milk for free. Come on, man.
I mean, there ain't a whole lot to give away, Chris. It is what it is. How about the best running back handcuffs? That's a good question. First off, though, before we answer who the best is, what's your take on handcuffs? Are you one that bothers with any handcuffs throughout your draft, or are you looking for those handcuffs that still have weekly value?
I mean, it really depends on the girl and what kind of mood she is. Oh, sorry, you mean running backs. My bad.
You can say that. You're not married.
Yeah. So for me, I don't typically am very aggressive when I'm looking at, running back handcuffs, unless it's a running back that has a history of injuries. Then I'm actually looking at their backup later in the draft, whether it's the 13th, 14th round, whatever it may be. But for the most part, no, I'm looking for the starter on as many teams as I can possibly get. And then I might look at the waiver wire throughout the season to go from there. But no, I'm not actively looking to pick up a handcuff throughout my draft. And that's just my personal strategy.
Yeah, and there's really only 2 handcuffs that I will bother drafting in redraft leagues for the most part. I'm a sucker for Latavius Murray and Kareem Hunt. Those are about it. And that's just because depending on where you can get it, especially Latavius Murray in the double-digit rounds, he's still somebody I could throw in my flex play. Maybe the ceiling's not quite as high, depending if Kamara's healthy or not. But at least I know I can throw him out there. He's going to get you right around 6 to 8 points as a floor. And I can live with that if I'm in a pinch later in the season. Hunt, we know kind of what he's going to be involved with. But outside of that, unless it's a super deep league where I'm having to go, really deep into the rounds, maybe I'll get like an Anthony McFarland for Pittsburgh, maybe an Alexander Madison from Minnesota. But outside of that, that's my extent of handcuffs.
Yeah.
The best one, I would think that as of right now, going into the season, it's got to be Kareem Hunt, because I think his weekly floor is the highest of any of them. And if something happens to Nick Chubb, he's arguably a top 3 or 4 running back.
And even if I don't own Nick Chubb or Alvin Kamara, I would still target their backups just because we know how they can produce from a fantasy standpoint. They're going to get the touches regardless. So it's not like you're drafting a handcuff. You're just drafting an extension of that offense.
Exactly. Let's see here. Jordan Young, see you out there. We appreciate you. Says, does Hunt prevent Chubb from being top 12, or can Cleveland support 2 top running backs? I'm not going to let my bias get in the way. I'll let you answer first, and then I'll go on a rant. Go ahead, Chris.
All right. So right now, I have Nick Chubb as my RB9. I have him as a top 10 running back, and I have Kareem Hunt Still, obviously not that high, but I think that he has the potential to be an RB2. I think that Cleveland, where they are looking to be more of a run-heavy team with Kevin Stefanski as that head coach, Hunt is going to be more valuable in PPR formats than he would be in standard formats. So I do think while Hunt will take away some touches, Chubb is certainly still a top 10 back, and Hunt is also going to have quite a bit of upside, especially where he's going, right around the end of the 6th round.
Yeah. All right, my turn now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, the answer is yes. They can support two. And I think a lot of people are looking at last year, the end of last year when Hunt came back, and we're like, well, see, Hunt ate into all Chubb's value. Hunt is the better option. You kind of really got to dive a little bit deeper into the numbers. Chubb was still seeing close to 20 touches a game. And that's what we try to chase is the volume, right? Because you can't score fantasy football points if your player never touches the ball. Now, was Chubb less efficient? 100% he was less efficient, but look what they did in the offseason. That offensive line very much improved. I think the addition of Jack Conklin does not get talked about enough. Then they bring in Kevin Stefanski, who turned Dalvin Cook into what he was last year. And absolutely, because if you saw anything last year, it's that the one constant in that offense was their running game, right? It was either pass catching out of the backfield with Hunt or running the ball with Chubb. That's kind of going to be where I see them starting off this season. Yes, new coaching staff, new game planning, new offense, but with the way this offseason is, you don't have the likes of Baker Mayfield out there with Odell Beckham, who's rehabbing. Jarvis Landry, he's rehabbing. They're supposed to be good by the start of the season, but they're not out there right now together. The new addition of Austin Hooper, he's not on the same page as Baker right away. Do we really trust David Njoku? There's a lot of questions in the passing game right now. And as much as the ceiling is super high, I think to start the year, to start to gain the momentum, they're going to lean on the running backs. And I love some Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt all season long. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I'm thinking with my Chubb head is what I'm doing. That's not a good thing to do on YouTube either, Chris. Don't take pointers from me on that.
Kyle?
Yeah, exactly. Let's blame it on Kyle. Double A says Kamara's in a contract year. Yes, he is, and that's going to play a part. However, I think that he's solidified himself on that roster, especially with Drew Brees there. This is like, they can't go without Alvin Kamara. This offense, I don't think Michael Thomas is as good without Alvin Kamara in the backfield, even though Thomas absolutely killed it last year with Kamara not being 100%. Kamara demands defensive attention in that backfield. They have to keep an eye on him, right? And it's not just running the ball. It's in the passing game. So I think he still re-signs there. I don't know if he's playing that hard for an extra contract. I think he would play hard anyway. He just seems like that type of player.
I agree.
What else do we have? Let's see. Standard league. Who would you take first, second, and third? So I guess just rank these three players. This is for DeAnthony Green, Chris. We got Kenyon Drake, Miles Sanders, and Austin Eckler.
In standard format?
It says a standard league.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume no PPR. So for that, I would go. And so you said Drake, Sanders, and who?
Eckler.
I would go Sanders, Drake, and then Eckler in that order.
Sanders, Drake, Eckler in a standard league. I think that's probably the safest option, especially right now. Miles Sanders has a great opportunity to not just be involved in the passing game, but get that early down work because there's nobody there to take away any of his touches. So I think Kenyon Drake is still maybe a safe floor, but his ceiling may be somewhat more limited with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. I just think they throw the ball a little bit more this year. But I honestly, I know it's a standard league, but I don't hate any three of those players. I'm not off the bandwagon. I know I may be a little bit higher on Eckler in PPR leagues than a lot of other people are, but I don't dislike any of those guys. Here's a good debate. You ready for a debate, Chris? Because I can almost guarantee you I am not in the majority with my answer on this one.
Okay.
The better strat, and I don't know exactly what Sean Norton is referring to. It may have been a previous comment. It says the better strategy is best player available. So I'm guessing there was something that was said about taking certain positions in certain rounds, and he's saying the best strategy is just to take the best player available. Do you agree with that?
I personally do not. And
well, good. Then we agree. Perfect.
Okay. And for me personally, it just depends on what player is available in what round. if I have, 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds, am I going to be looking at a different position? Yeah, probably. I mean, just because for the most part, you figure the other good running backs are going to be gone. So for me, it's not best player available, but it really does depend round by round. But I am looking at certain positions in certain rounds.
And it really, to me, depends on the depth of the position and what is left. I think so many people go out there and they just take the predetermined draft sheet that whatever platform they're on, and they just start at the top and work their way down. Just because the guy's at the top of a list for an ESPN or a Sleeper or a Yahoo does not mean that he is the best player available. That's somebody's opinion on who the best player available is, but that may not be your best player available. And that's why we try to do our best to give you as much information as possible so you can make those decisions a little bit easier. Best player available is kind of a gray area because what constitutes the best player available? Is it because I need a wide receiver? Is it, I already have 2 running backs, so I don't need a third one? Well, maybe you do need that third one because there are no other running backs available after that. Maybe that's where the drop-off is, and there's 15 wide receivers that are left that you like. If that's the case, you grab the last available running back that you like, and then you go towards the wide receivers later on. So I think a lot of people, don't follow that, and maybe it's just us, Chris, and maybe we're loners in that area, but that's okay because I'm not stuck on certain things in certain rounds and going just best player available because I think that can be construed and looked at differently depending on who's the one looking at the list.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly okay with being the lone boner out there, so it's cool.
Good transition. You're learning quick, Chris. Good transition.
Wait, what are we transitioning to?
Just the whole process of transitioning, past content into.
Oh, I figured you were gonna just transition into a lone boner conversation. So.
No, not something I'm used to doing on YouTube here.
Oh, maybe next time.
Let's see here. Don't know what that question is. Let's see here. Oh, Sean Norton said he was talking about the first 4 picks in a draft. Okay, that changes things a little bit.
Yeah, that does change things a little bit.
I mean, we kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there thinking you were talking about every round, but you got that for free. That one was for free. Let's see here. Nigel Salazar. Who is the best wide receiver one to get? If you get 3 straight RBs, please let me know because that's me. So I'm guessing what the question is, am I reading this right, that if you take 3 running backs, who is the best wide receiver one to get? So you're kind of looking at wide receivers available in the 4th round that you can trust to be your wide receiver one. That's where I'm taking that question. What do you think, Chris?
So, and luckily for you, Nigel, wide receiver is so deep right now that currently there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are about 8 wide receivers right now that I personally have ranked in my top 24 that are available between rounds 4 and 6. So there could be guys like Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Adam Thielen. All of those guys right now are currently going early to mid 4th round. And those are guys that I would be perfectly happy with having as my wide receiver one.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of crazy this year. Like that 4th through, heck, even if you go to like the 8th round, there are so many quality wide receivers out there that I am okay this year with going running back, if that's how the draft falls, and then just loading up on wide receivers after that because I know at some point one of them, they're going to break out. They're going to have a huge year. Those A.J. Browns, a lot of love for Deebo Samuel. There's some wide receivers out there that have some super high ceilings that are falling really late. One question, and this one just popped into my head. If, Chris, you went heavy running back and you went running back,
yeah,
and then you took one of those wide receivers you just named there in the 4th, do you take a chance on maybe like an A.J. Green in the 6th or 7th? Or do you just pass him off altogether and not even take that risk?
It's funny you say that because when I was kind of rearranging my rankings earlier today, 2 guys that actually really popped out in my rankings compared to where they're currently going in their ADP are AJ Green and T.Y. Hilton. Both are going early to mid 7th round, and I have them ranked a lot higher, both right inside my top 24, higher than where they're currently being drafted. So yeah, I'd be more than okay taking a chance on T.Y. Hilton or AJ Green.
I mean, and that's why I kind of brought it up, is because there's some names that have fallen a lot this year. Now, am I super pumped about going AJ Green as my wide receiver too? Am Am I expecting wide receiver 1 numbers? No, and that's kind of where you need to know going in, what are your expectations for these players? Because if you draft somebody in the 6th, 7th, 8th round and you're expecting wide receiver 1 numbers, you may be sorely disappointed. Go in there expecting realistic numbers and then be pleasantly surprised if they outperform it. There's a reason that they're falling there. There's some risk, but know that going in, and then you won't be as disappointed. Let's see here. Our boy Casey Sullivan, he's out there in the chat. Casey. He's one of our Patreon members. He's out here in the chat.
He's got the Headliners logo.
He's even got the logo. I mean,
I like
Casey, tell the people if you're enjoying the content that's going on Patreon right now, because Chris mentioned it earlier. We have an audio podcast. We'll do graphics, picture graphics. We'll do. Kyle actually put a video on Patreon today breaking down game film. That's something we can't do on YouTube because of copyright issues, but we can do it on Patreon. So you better believe that's what we're going to start doing a lot of over there. Elijah Meltzer. If I get Chubb, this is getting personal. No, if I get Chubb and Mixon in the first 2 rounds, do I go flex RB round 3 and grab Gurley, Carson, or Gordon, or go for the wide receivers in Kupp or Keenan Allen? I mean, I talked about this earlier, and I'm all aboard the 3 running back strategy if those are the options that are available.
Yeah, I can't fault you there. But again, like, as we talked about earlier, there are so many wide receivers that you can get after the 3rd round that you will still absolutely be able to consider your wide receiver 1. So yeah, I'm perfectly okay with you going, RB heavy those first 3 rounds, especially where last season proved that running backs really did outscore wide receivers as a group. So I actually wrote my first article with the Fantasy Headliners last season was about the 0 running back strategy. And it kind of backfired on me because, last year it was really all about getting those workhorse stud running backs. And that's going to be personally my strategy going into this season is probably going to be grabbing running backs really early and heavily.
Yeah. And it's just because like the drop off is so quick at running back.
Yeah.
I mean, you run out of talent quickly. And if you don't have the depth this year, it could hurt, even though there's going to be that name that pops up at some point on the waiver wire. I mean, we see it every single year, right? It was James White, or a couple years ago it was Tariq Cohen. People coming in that you grabbed off of waivers. There'll be another one of those guys this year, but the main starters that you want to count on, they disappear very quick. So personally, in my video earlier this week, I said Todd Gurley would be my flex play, and I'm totally fine with that because the risk is minimal and the ceiling is ridiculous.
I was really excited about Nyheim Hines before Jonathan Taylor got drafted. So
yeah, and Nyheim Hines will still have a role. He may not be what we thought he would be going into the season, but he'll still have somewhat of a role in that offense. Nate Blair says he thinks Odell's going to outproduce his ADP and be a top 5 wide receiver. Do we agree? Top 5 is a little rich. But I do think that he outperforms his ADP this year, and I am not off the Odell bandwagon.
Yeah, I think Odell could definitely crack the top 10. Top 5, again, I think it's a little bit too rich for me. But top 10 is definitely in reach. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Coltrane says, "What am I missing with Jack motherfucking Doyle? And there's no more Ebron, and now he gets a tight end loving Rivers. Why is he so low on our rankings?" It's not that I don't like Jack Doyle. I mean, they brought in Trey Burton. They still have Mo Alley Cox, which is one of the funnest names to say in the NFL. I just don't trust this offense to use a single tight end, and I think that they're going to involve all of these guys at some point. And as much as I want it to be Jack Doyle, I still think that the others are involved in some capacity.
Yeah, for me with Doyle, he's one of those tight ends that needs to get a large volume. I mean, he's somebody who's going to need about 100 targets a season to really be in that upper echelon of fantasy tight ends because he doesn't have a very high ADOT and his yards after catch are pretty abysmal. So he is someone that's going to have to get targeted early and often, for him to get those, 60, 70 receiving yards per game. And also his touchdown numbers. I don't think he's ever had more than 4 or 5 touchdowns in a season. So for him to be a tight end 1, top 10, top 12, he's going to have to get peppered with targets. And I don't know if that's going to happen this season.
Yeah, absolutely. We got 235 people watching right now. But
hi,
I
everybody.
think we could get, Okay. I think we could get some more if everybody who's watching would just support us and just hit the like button, because that would help get us some more people. Let's bring this community together and have some fun talking some football here on a Sunday, right? Is it Sunday?
It's Sunday, and I promise I won't show you guys my feet.
Perfect. That'll get a few likes by itself right there. The hype around Deontay Johnson legitimate? I had Deontay Johnson in a show in second-year breakouts earlier in the week, and I think he's worth the risk as long as his ADP doesn't continue to get higher and higher. Right now in the double-digit rounds, sign me up in every single draft that I can get. But if it starts getting too expensive, I'm hopping off the bandwagon.
Yep, actually, he was one of my. For anyone out there that has not purchased our draft guide, please go ahead and do so, because when I was writing up the player profiles, Deontay Johnson was one of them. And that's my biggest concern right now is he's getting so much hype already this offseason. His ADP keeps climbing and climbing. He's right now towards the middle of the 9th round. And that's really, really high. I mean, he's going above guys like, Christian Kirk, which I can't believe right now. Jerry Jeudy, he's going higher than. So I like the talent, but I want to see what kind of rapport he can actually build with Ben Roethlisberger, because he really did have a carousel of quarterbacks throwing to him last year.
And that's where I think the biggest question mark is Big Ben. If Big Ben was 100% healthy, all right, I'll buy a little bit more of the hype, because I do love Deontay Johnson, but we just don't know. I mean, we think we know. We saw, a 20 or 30-second clip on social media with a bunch of people saying he's back, but I haven't seen him, go under center and take a snap, drop back, and, deliver a missile to some. I haven't seen it yet. I kind of need to see that before I can really start trusting it. And with everything that's going on, I don't know if we get to see that for at least a couple months. And that's the part that worries me. It's not so much the talent level of Deontay Johnson, because I think the kid has the ability. It's just the delivery of the football. Can Ben make it? Is Ben 100% healthy? Because there's no backup again. I mean, it's back to Mason Rudolph if we have to go that way, or Duck Hodges, which that terrifies me too. Let's see. Double A says Kenyon Drake is not the best runner. He's going to be a bust. I mean, I think Arizona's offense at this point, it doesn't matter who it is. They're going to have a fantasy producing asset at the running back position. I mean, we saw it last year with David Johnson, who didn't look 100% healthy, but he was still a top running back the first half of the season. You had Chase Edmonds come in and look like an all-pro running back. Then Kenyon Drake went crazy. It's just kind of one of those systems that they're going to involve them to the point to where they're going to, produce fantasy numbers.
Yeah, and I think also with Kenyon Drake, you have to, if you look at what he did when he joined the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, for the season alone, the guy averaged almost 5 yards per carry. He's involved in the passing game, so he's going to get those targets. And he's a guy who has shown that he's probably going to get 20 plus touches a game. So when it comes to fantasy football, especially with running backs, volume is absolutely king. And he's in an offense that is going to look to score a lot of points because their defense isn't all that good. So where Drake is involved in the passing game, that just gives him that much more value.
Yes, 100% agree. Max Skills, we appreciate the support. However, he's paying some money to see your feet. I don't know if $2 is going to cut it, but
you had to add another zero to that, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, I don't know why everybody wants to see your feet. This is starting to freak me out a little bit.
No, I've been golfing a lot lately, so I have that golfer's tan where my feet are completely white and the rest of my legs are tan.
I didn't need to know, but thank you for sharing anyway.
You want to know what my toenails look like?
Nope.
No.
Let's see. Cool. Zev Englander, what's going on, Zev? He's a faithful here in Headliner Nation.
Yes, absolutely. Zev.
Bell's ADP has plummeted. Do you think that he's a safe value pick? What do you think of Le'Veon Bell?
His ADP absolutely has. His ADP right now is around the middle to the end of the 4th round. And again, Adam Gase is just a fantasy football killer right now. So I love Bell's talent. I mean, we saw that when Darnold went down, Bell was really involved more in the passing game, which was great. But I don't know if Bell is going to get back to that RB1 status. I think he's definitely a top 20, maybe even top 15 back. But I would lean closer to him being towards more of like a high-end RB2. But again, if he's there in the middle to late 4th round, I'm 100% on board with taking him there.
Here's why I'm not. You mentioned Adam Gase, but there's one other reason, Chris. If Adam Gase doesn't kill enough fantasy value himself, now we got to deal with the second biggest killer in fantasy value, and that's Frank Gore. He just travels around the NFL killing fantasy value as he goes. And now we got to worry about Frank Gore there. I mean, is it going to be something similar to, Bell may have a good drive and then Gore gets the touchdown on the goal line carry? It's just, I don't know if I can deal with Gase and Gore at the same time. That's just a disaster. Now, it's kind of one of those things where if the draft falls a certain way and maybe you go heavy wide receiver early and you're looking for those high upside backs that you're just hoping work out, then all of a sudden I don't mind Le'Veon Bell because you're not going to have a whole lot of other options at that point. But it all depends. Otherwise, I'm not going to go out there and look to focus on Le'Veon Bell at all.
Yeah, the one area that's Gore is really going to hurt Bell is going to be in the red zone at the goal line. Last year, Bell saw about 70% of the carries inside the 10 and inside the 5. But Gore is certainly going to be eating away at that this year.
Yep, absolutely. Ian Sattler. See you out there. We appreciate you. He wants to know which Texans wide receiver are you buying, if any of them?
Oh gosh. If I'm buying any of them, and it's not going to be the answer a lot of you probably are expecting, it's not Brandon Cooks, it would be Will Fuller for me. And that's mainly because of where, he's going in drafts right now, towards the middle to the end of the 8th round. He's got the speed. He's a very talented. The guy just catches touchdowns. The issue with him and Kiki Kuti of the Texans is that their team can't really stay healthy. Will Fuller might play 2 or 3 games and then he's out for the rest of the season. I'm also just not sold on Brandon Cooks right now as well. So if I'm going with any Texans receiver, it's going to be with Will Fuller because he has that rapport and that relationship, with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and we've seen it before with Fuller, right? The biggest issue with Fuller has always been health, like you mentioned. It's not can he produce or is he on the same page with what? We know those answers. It's just keeping him healthy. I don't hate Brandon Cooks where his current ADP is at, but I have a feeling that as we get closer to the season, that may rise a little bit. I don't think that Brandon Cooks will ever be the type of wide receiver to really go out there and get that 100 catches and 1,400 yards and 8 touchdowns. Kind of not really what we see from him. But Will Fuller has that super high ceiling at a cheaper price. I'm not excited for Fuller either, though. It really depends. I don't want to have to count. I don't want to rely on Will Fuller. If he's just a bench stash that hopefully turns out, cool. If he's somebody that I have to contemplate starting every week, then all of a sudden I'm a little bit more nervous about it.
Yeah, the Texans receiver I'm most excited about is David Johnson. And that's mainly because he is larger in size than any current Texans receiver on the roster.
Yes. Why do you know how large he is?
That's none of your business. That's between me and DJ.
Wow. Let's see here. Josh B thinks a Kamara holdout is very possible. I do not. Do you?
I don't. I don't think he holds out, to be honest with you, because we've seen what Le'Veon Bell did with a holdout. That did him absolutely zero good. So I don't think Kamara has much leverage if he does decide to hold out.
Did the holdout help anybody except for Zeke?
Right, exactly. And even with the Cowboys situation, if Zeke did decide to hold out, they still had Tony Pollard, who's a very talented running back. The Saints have Latavius Murray, so they can still keep that team going with or without Kamara. Now, don't get me wrong, Kamara's a phenomenal player, but it's not like they would be completely, their hands tied behind their back if he decided to sit out.
Yeah, agreed. Tyler Cantrell, do you think Kyler Murray finishes as a top 3 quarterback? I think he's close. I think he's really close.
I want to say yes. I actually, in my rankings, I keep swapping he and Dak Prescott, between 3 and 4. In Dynasty, Kyler Murray absolutely is in my number 3 spot. For redraft this season, he's right there. He's number 4 for me, right behind Dak Prescott. But he has QB1, potential. I mean, that's his ceiling right now, is to be the best fantasy quarterback in football for a guy that is, smaller than I am, and I look like a Cub Scout.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's smaller than you are?
He's like 5'6", isn't he? 5'7"?
I mean, he looks bigger with pads on.
He looks like he's dressed up in a Halloween costume every time he puts on his football uniform.
Our doctor out there, Ethan Turner, He's in the chat. He says Will Fuller is going to make an appearance in his injury buy or avoid section of our draft guide, and that you may be surprised which section he falls under. Talk about a little bit of a teaser. The doc out there teasing people in the chat. But yeah, that's going to be a section in the draft guide talking about injuries, buys, and avoids. Ethan has gone through and done some pretty good digging for you guys to let you know where you may want to take that risk and where you really don't. Trevor, I don't know if I called you Tyler. Did I call you Tyler? Maybe I did. My bad. It's Trevor. He's laughing about it, so I guess I didn't piss him off too bad. Let's see here. Trevor. What about... Yeah, thanks, Trevor. Appreciate you. Yeef wants to know about the Broncos offense. Are you excited for the Broncos offense?
I am. I'm very excited for the Broncos offense. I'm actually more excited about Drew Lock. As much as I love Courtland Sutton, I'm more excited about Drew Lock than any other part of this Broncos offense. I know he didn't play a ton last year, but I love this kid's work ethic, his drive, his passion for the game, his eagerness to win. That's what I really like about Drew Lock. And I'm excited to see what he can do with these pieces. You know, he has Courtland Sutton. They went out and drafted Jerry Jeudy. They have Noah Fant. Melvin Gordon signed. They still have Philip Lindsay. And a lot of people have been saying, you know, well, Drew Lock has no excuse to fail this year. Well, yes, he does because he's still an inexperienced quarterback, but he's got a lot of fun toys to play with.
Absolutely. I think the Broncos offense is going to be really good for the NFL game, and I'm not going to really enjoy it for the fantasy game because I think that it's going to be one of those things where every week it may be another person in that offense that explodes. It's just going to be kind of hard to figure out who it's going to be.
It's going to be inconsistent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be different every week. But NFL-wise, I think they can win a lot of football games. Big Wade, 1976, see you out there. We appreciate you. He says, Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb, who has the better season this year? Which one you got, Chris?
So I want to say CeeDee Lamb, even though there are so many mouths to feed on that offense, just because I think he's going to be on the outside. I think Amari Cooper could get moved into the slot. So right now I'm going to say CeeDee Lamb. I know that just because I know what that offense can do and what they can produce, I don't know if it's not going to take as much time to develop as it might in Denver. So I'm gonna go with CeeDee Lamb right now, just because he's also my number one wide receiver from this class.
Yeah, for the reason I just mentioned with the Denver offense, it's just going to be something we see inconsistencies because there's so many options there. Similar to Dallas, but at least CeeDee Lamb is the superior talent in my opinion. I've seen a couple questions come by mentioning the name of Joe Mixon, and I'm just going to get onto this soapbox for a second, because I'm not going to go into too much information on Joe Mixon. There's a reason, people. There's a reason for this. Head over to Twitter and follow Kyle on Twitter. If you ever want to debate something or get into it's not an argument, but it's a discussion. If you're doing it with Kyle, bring the facts, because if you don't, he'll absolutely bury you. And it kind of happened on Twitter last night. Kyle went off with some Joe Mixon stats. And the next thing you know is people are just walking away from the conversation, not even responding anymore. Go check it out at krich1532. I was supposed to be falling asleep last night, but I was too busy sitting there laughing at a conversation on my phone that I wasn't even a part of. So go check that out. If you're interested in Joe Mixon, at krich1532, go look at Kyle's conversation from last night. Yep. It was absolutely hilarious. Jay and Smith, see you out there. We appreciate you, my friend. Says, what's up, guys? Japan is here. What? Japan in the house.
I like it.
He wants to know, is Olsen a good steal? So Greg Olsen, now a member of the Seattle Seahawks. Is he a good steal?
Yeah, he is for me. And I'm going to say that because right now he's going in the 15th round. So for a guy that's going that late, he's someone that could still finish as a top 20, top 18 tight end. I know that Seattle is really focused on, trying to establish the run. Their offensive line isn't that great, though. So I think that Seattle is going to be playing from behind in a lot of games. They're going to have to be throwing the ball. And as long as Greg Olsen can stay healthy, he is going to be the beneficiary of a lot of red zone looks from Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, if there wasn't the possibility, and you're already hearing rumors coming out that Will Dissly could be back by the start of the season.
Yeah.
That's the biggest question mark, and it's really going to have to be paid attention to before you draft, because if Dissly is healthy and available to play, yeah, you may see a little bit more Greg Olsen the first couple weeks, but it wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit, of Will Dissly. Jacob Hollister is still there also. They've kind of been one of those offenses that doesn't really matter who they put in tight end. As long as your name's not Luke Wilson, you'll have some productivity in that offense. So I don't hate Greg Olsen, but I'd really want to know what's going on with Will Dissly before I went into a season, dependent on Greg Olsen. Let's see here. Christian Mayanove says, Mixon, didn't you mean Rojo? No, Rojo sucks. Nobody cares about Rojo. No. I would not stay awake and miss out on sleep to listen to a conversation on Rojo because I know the dude's not good. Tyrell Clay, what's going on, Tyrell? It says, what player with a current ADP of the 4th round do you think can... Hold on a second. What player with a current ADP of a 4th round pick or do you think can win your league? So I'm guessing what he means is, who do you think can win your league with at least a 4th round ADP or higher? You got any potential league winners out there, Chris, after the 4th round?
Yeah, so I've got a couple, and I'm going to give you one at running back and one at wide receiver. And I really hope that Kyle is not listening to this right now, because a guy that I have that's currently going in the middle of the 5th round that I think could potentially be a league winner is Robert Woods. I think he could definitely be a top 10 wide receiver, if not higher. Right now, he's going as the number 20 overall wide receiver. And without Brandon Cooks, he and Cooper Kupp are going to get peppered with more targets. So he's my guy at wide receiver. But at running back, and this might surprise some people as he's going right near the end of the 4th round, but David Johnson, Houston Texans. I do think that he gets involved a lot more in the passing game. He's not very good as a runner, as we've seen in years past. He had one season of 1,000 yards. That's because he had a ton of a workload. I do think that he's going to get involved in the passing game more. I think he's going to be used more as a receiver. And right now his ADP is RB23. I think he has the potential, to be a low-end RB1, high-end RB2.
We got out there, Lior says, hey, fun fact, Funchess went to my high school. It's 15 minutes down the road for me, but he still sucks, though. Way to go, Lior. Got our boy Dan
never
Theory.
Funchess.
That's right. Never Funchess. Dan out there in the chat. What's going on, Dan? He says Bobby Woods will smash. A lot of people like him. Some Bobby Woods this year. What was it last year? Oh, somebody called him Bobby Trees last year, and I had no idea who they were talking about at first.
I like that nickname though.
Bobby Trees. Yeah, he's definitely somebody who could have a great season and really outperform that ADP.
Yep.
Let's see here. What is Carlos Hyde's value right now from Greg Mancia? I mean, it's like a hair above 0 for me.
Yeah. I don't think I can scroll far enough down on my rankings list to find him. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the hype around him, and I know it's because Rashad Penny more than likely will not play this year no matter what. But Chris Carson has incriminating photos of Coach Pete Carroll. I'm convinced at this point because it doesn't matter who they sign. He's going to be the lead running back as long as he's healthy, and it sounds like he should be good. So I think he's injury dependent and not somebody who you can count on weekly. I mean, they still have Travis Homer, and they drafted DJ Dallas there also. It's just not something where I think Carlos Hyde is a difference maker in that offense. A lot of us have gotten excited every time Carlos Hyde falls somewhere, and then he underwhelms. I mean, we were excited when he went to Kansas City. Nothing happened. Went to Jacksonville. Nothing happened. Went to Texans. He at least got 1,000 yards rushing with the Texans. Wasn't very efficient with it. Took a lot of touches, but I just don't see him going to Seattle and being that big of a fantasy asset.
And I do want to make a little comment. Kyle listened and did hear my comment on Robert Woods, so he was quite pleased about that. For those of you who don't know, Kyle and I made a pseudo bet that he did or did not welch on about who would have a better season between Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. I took Kupp. He took Woods. Woods keeps moving up in my rankings, though. So we didn't make the bet, so it's okay if I switch sides.
Yeah, you can switch sides whatever you want to now since it's not going to happen. Jay and Smith. Breeze's ADP is very low. He says it's a steal, which it is. I think he'll end up a top 5 quarterback. What do you guys think? I love some Drew Brees this year.
Yeah,
Right.
I like Drew Brees too. I don't know. I'm not going to put him top 5. I have him right outside of my top 10. I know it's lower than where other people currently have him, um, because he just his home away splits are so offsetting that you better hope that he just smashes when he's at home, because when he plays on the road, it's almost like he's a different quarterback. So um, he's borderline top 10 for me.
All right, Chris, we got a good question here. And it's not in the chat. I saw the name, but there was no question. I'm making the question myself
Oh, okay.
because I already somewhat know your answer. So it's even perfect because I know it agrees with what I think. Rob Gronkowski.
Yep.
A lot of people don't want to buy the hype around Gronk in Tampa Bay with Brady. I'm not saying we're seeing old school Gronk, but we do have top 10 Gronk in the house in Tampa Bay, in my opinion.
Yes. Yep. Gronk for me is a top 10 tight end for this year. Um, you guys, I mean, I know health has been an issue for him over the last few seasons. He took a year off from football. He lost a good amount of weight, but in great shape. He is probably going to have to put on some more weight to get back into football shape. But as long as this guy can stay healthy, I mean, yeah, he's going to be a red zone target machine. And you could be looking at least 7 to 8 touchdowns from him this year.
And that's my biggest thing right there. I think the touchdowns are there, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what really boosts him up towards the end of the year. He's not going to be the guy to go out there and get 1,000 yards receiving, but I
Or
could definitely
no.
see Gronk going out there and getting 60 catches for 600-700 yards and almost double-digit touchdowns, and that would
Yep.
easily put him into the top 10 at the tight end position.
Yep.
And especially, it's at that point in the draft where you can get Gronk that you can even wait another couple rounds afterwards and grab yourself a Jonnu Smith later and hope that one of them pans out great because we love Jonnu Smith. So if you don't get the Kelseys, the Kittles, the Ertz or whoever in the past of those top guys, take a stab at 2 guys late and hope one of them pans out, and you could have yourself a great option at tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Jay and Smith, another one. Jay and Smith just taking care of us tonight. Jay, we appreciate you. Jay and
Thank
Smith.
Thank you.
It says Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack, or Naheem Hines. I grabbed all 3 to be safe. Well, you have the backfield tied up.
You've got your bases covered.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what happens, I think you're good. Now, to start the year, it's going to be a little bit confusing because I do think that we see a pretty good split between Taylor and Mack to start. We mentioned that earlier, that Taylor will run away with his job at some point. But to start the year, we may see a little bit more Mack than Jonathan Taylor owners want to see. If it's a PPR league, though, I think Hines has a role in this offense, and he's not somebody who I would look forward to starting. But if you're having your fantasy football draft and you're reliant on starting Naheem Hines in your draft or after your draft in week 1, you may have made some poor choices earlier in the draft because he's somebody who should be able to stash on your bench and hold off just in case.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think a lot of all of the rookie running backs right now are going a little bit higher than they should be, and I think you're going to start seeing their ADP drop over the next few months because a lot of people who may not be as familiar with fantasy football are going to go with those name brand players that they're just used to seeing year after year after year. But Jonathan Taylor will be the Colts RB1 by the end of the season.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Let's see, what else do we got? Mugzilla 407. Thoughts on drafting 12th in a PPR league? Do I go wide receiver, or take whatever is left at running back? In my opinion, A, don't commit to a certain position for sure. Be ready to be agile if you need to be. But I can't pass on the running backs at that point. I absolutely love the late picks in the first round, especially this year because I found it in a lot of mock drafts. I can get Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs, and I love that.
Yeah, I just looking at ADP right now, especially in 12-team formats. You could be able to get Nick Chubb at 112, and then you have a plethora of guys, like Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs. Those are guys that are going early in the second round that you could completely take at 201, and then rounds 3 through 4 or 5. That's where you can really target other positions if you need to. But thankfully, as opposed to last year, where last year I probably would have recommended, towards the end of the first round, you might want to go wide receiver. But this year, the upper echelon of running backs is a little bit deeper than what we saw from last season.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. So, yeah, I'm going running back, 100%. Give me
Yeah.
Chubb, give me Jacobs.
Yep.
Let's see here. What do you think about Aaron Jones? You just mentioned his name, Aaron Jones, and that's somebody who a lot of people are kind of off of this year. I understand why, 100%. I mean, obviously, you can't buy that touchdown production we saw last year. There's bound to be some regression there. But I still like Aaron Jones, just more in that low end, mid to low end RB2 range.
Yeah, same here. He's not an RB1 for me. And I say that because I know the Packers are going to be much more of a run heavy, focused offense like they were last year. Their offensive line was super, super good. But they went ahead and they drafted AJ Dillon, a big body guy who I think is going to take away a lot of those goal line carries from Aaron Jones. Last year, Aaron Jones handled 72% of carries inside the 5-yard line. And I think a lot of those carries are going to get taken away by either AJ Dillon or Jamal Williams. The one thing with Aaron Jones, he was so productive last year because, Jake, as you just mentioned, those touchdown numbers. And I think that's going to be really tough for him to duplicate going into the season. So Aaron Jones, for me, more of an RB2 than an RB1.
Yeah, 100% agree. We got Thomas Bransky. He says, longtime listener, you guys are great. Thomas, thank you. We appreciate you. Says, please rank in a standard league. Diggs, AJ Green, Lockett, and Metcalf. Chris is frantically pulling up his rankings as we speak.
Diggs, Lockett, AJ Green, and Metcalf?
Yep.
I'm going to go, and I'm not even looking at my rankings just because I kind of have an idea of what I already have there. But I'm going Metcalf, Diggs, Lockett, Green.
I don't hate that. I do think that Metcalf has that opportunity to pass Lockett in that offense. So yeah, I don't dislike that. Heck, I would almost probably put him exactly the same way. I do think that Diggs is going to be one of those guys that disappoints from time to time, but has that huge ceiling at any given week. I think he can go out there and he can score 30, or he's going to go out there and score 3. That's going to be the biggest problem with Stephon Diggs in that offense. I still like Cole Beasley there. Everybody's forgotten about the Beasley.
Love Cole Beasley,
he's basically going undrafted in leagues, and that's somebody who was heavily involved in the red zone. It's like they forget about him once they get down there, and they're looking for those big-bodied receivers, and nobody pays attention to Cole Beasley. So I'm still on the Beasley bandwagon. I think he may be a little bit safer and more consistent, just not the ceiling that you're used to seeing with some of the other guys.
Right.
Thoughts on Nick Chubb? We absolutely love Chubb. I love Chubb more than anybody else loves Chubb, though. I claimed him first, and he is my fantasy football love child.
It's true. Nobody loves the Chubb more than Jake does.
Nobody. I was on Nick Chubb at the Combine. That sounds bad. I was really high on Nick Chubb at the Combine even. I remember there's a video up on the channel, and if I
of you and Chubb?
No. But it was me right after the Combine. It was a video we did right afterwards, and we were talking about who the best running back in football in the draft was. And I said, it's Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. And I've been on that bandwagon ever since. So, yeah, he's going to be good again. Jay and Smith just continues to just make our night.
Love the support, Jane.
Jay and Smith, we really, really appreciate you. It says, grabbing a quarterback in the first, second rounds. What are your thoughts? I grabbed he said, I grabbed Patty and L-Jax. Still ended up with Henry, Fournette, Connor, Ingram, AJ Green, Boyd, Diggs, and Cooks. Wow. So you took Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, and yet you still ended up with Henry, Fournette, Connor, Ingram, AJ Green, Boyd, Diggs, and Cooks. This has to be last year, obviously, but I'm sure you had a great season. I'm sure you had a pretty good team. That is amazing to have Lamar and Mahomes. I don't know if it's Superflex to where you could start both of them. That's the only time I really take quarterbacks that early. But to still get Henry and Fournette in the third and fourth, I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you're able to get those guys, especially later on in drafts as well. I mean, last year it was Lamar Jackson. The year before that, you were able to get Patrick Mahomes late if he was even drafted at all. And so this year it's going to be, who's going to be that next quarterback superstar. And I don't know if there is one right now in the class, but the biggest value for me right now in this year's draft for redraft is Phillip Rivers, going as the QB 24, going in the 14th round, and he could finish as a top 15 fantasy quarterback this year.
I don't hate Derek Carr.
You really don't. You love Derek Carr.
I don't hate Derek Carr as a great value with some added weapons there now. I don't hate it. There's, like you just mentioned, with Mahomes 2 years ago, Lamar this past year, the reason that those guys were league winners was, yeah, they scored like a bajillion and 12 points, but you didn't have to draft them early. They were later picks, and that's why we always push those later round quarterbacks. There is going to be a quarterback picked from round 8 on this year that turns out to be a top 5 option. It happens every year. There's going to be one. Who is it going to be? That's what you're trying to find, is that one name. We got a few more minutes left, Chris. We'll hit a couple more questions. It is Sunday night. It is 10:15 here on the East Coast. I know Chris himself has a hard stop time at 10:30 because he goes to bed at like 10:35. He's old, you know what I mean? So
I'm actually staying up past my bedtime just for Headliner Nation.
Well, that's actually, your bedtime was 11 minutes ago, wasn't it?
It was.
Let's see here. Couple more questions. Let's see. I think Damian Williams still gets his touches and hurts CH value until mid-season when Damian gets hurt. That's from Mr. Wilson. Said that earlier. I'm not sold that Damian Williams is just completely out of this offense. I can see him being involved the first few weeks also.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And right now, his ADP isn't terrible. You know, he's going in the 7th round, and we've seen what he can do, especially in an offense this explosive. So, yeah, no, I don't hate that at all.
Yeah. Let's see here. You want to talk a couple tight ends, the football game?
I always want to talk tight ends.
Let's see here. We have DeAnthony Green. Rank the tight ends here. We got Hunter Henry, Tyler Higbee, and Evan Ingram. Man, I'm glad Kyle isn't here for this one because I know who he'd pick first.
Oh, he'd be salivating at the mouth. For me, I'm going Ingram, Higbee, and then Henry in that order.
You were a lot more like Kyle than I thought. I just can't buy Evan Ingram. I just can't.
I loved it. I can't quit him.
It's like I'll be having my hand on the mouse, and as soon as it hovers over draft, like my finger just moves. I can't hit the draft button on
Can't do it.
Ingram. I just can't do it. I don't trust it enough. The dude is a great talent, but he spends more time on the bench than like the long snapper, the backup long snapper. The guy is just, talk about injury prone. He just can't stay on the field. And now they have the likes of, Darius Slayton, who I expect to take a step forward. They already have Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard. Saquon Barkley is going to be involved in the back. I don't know if Daniel Jones can supply all of them consistently enough to suffice for the draft capital that you have to put into Evan Ingram. I'm not.
Higbee is the safest option just because he stays healthy and he doesn't have as many threats around him as the other two.
Yeah, I was a couple weeks ago. I referred to Gerald Everett. His role in that offense was like a dingleberry because he's not bad. He's a solid tight end. He doesn't, get the snaps and the routes that Higbee does, but he did just enough to kind of hurt the value of Higbee. I'm hoping that is not the case this year because Tyler Higbee is definitely somebody who could help win a lot of fantasy games here in 2020.
Yeah.
Our boy M. St. G. We appreciate you. We appreciate you a lot.
Always.
Thank you very much. Says, what's good, Jake and Chris? How many rookies would you guys want to roster? And Jake and Kyle would be proud. Oh, and Jake, Kyle would be proud that you kind of whispered that you don't hate Carr.
You did.
I did whisper, didn't I?
Yeah.
Kyle was rubbing off on us. First off, appreciate the question. M. St. G, another one of our patron members, loving the content, I hope, out there. So he's got the question, how many rookies would you want to roster, Chris?
I think it depends on when you're able to get them in your draft, but I would say is just a general rule for me. I'd probably say no more than 3 or 4, just because you want to make sure that the rookies that you are picking up are going to get heavy workloads, either as running backs or they're going to get a decent target share as wide receivers. As far as rookie tight ends, I'm completely staying away. And rookie quarterbacks, for the most part, I'm probably staying away from as well. So I'm looking at running backs and wide receivers, no more than 3 or 4.
Yeah, and that may even be a little bit higher for me. It all depends what I have on my roster as far as like safer plays, because I think a lot of people fall in love with rookies at the draft, and they just think that, I'm going to get all these rookies and they're just going to kill it this year, and very few of them will. So I try to limit it to one running back, 1 wide receiver, and that's it, because I don't want to take too many risks. Now, once the season starts, if I have somebody that gets hurt or that underperforms, I'm more likely to go to the waivers and try to find that that young talent that's just, ready to break out. That's probably where I'd probably head a little bit more. But yeah, in the draft, I can't do it. In regular redraft leagues, more than likely, I probably won't take any at all if it's like a serious league, just because I don't want to take that risk early.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Everybody's talking about my bandwagon Chubb. Yep, absolutely. I will stay on that bandwagon forever. Let's see here.
Jay and Smith is back.
Jay,
he's back.
You're gonna have to send him a picture of your feet. Is what we're gonna have to. If I total all this up, he's gonna be getting a foot picture, both feet at this point.
You're gonna maybe some ankle with it. We don't know.
Wow. Show him some tan line. Let's see here. He says, supporting other guys in chat now. I see some guys in the chat asking about Dak. Is he worth it? I'm concerned he might not even play. Who is your quarterback? Well, I appreciate. I mean, he's out there looking out for people. He's seeing some questions go by that we haven't caught on to.
Yep.
So he took it upon himself to make sure that it was seen. Jay, greatly appreciate that. Dak, I'm for one am not overly concerned that Dak plays this year. I'm almost, I can't say 100%, but I'm pretty dang close to saying something's going to get worked out in Dallas with Dak Prescott. I can't see them investing in all the weapons that they have and not investing in Dak at this point. It would make no sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. That offense is going to run because of Dak Prescott. I know they went out and they signed Andy Dalton, but it's not going to be any sort of a threat to Dak Prescott, and he's still going to finish as a top 5, top 3 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, it's just going to be one of those things similar to with Zeke. Remember, everybody's like, oh, Zeke's going to hold out, and then the last minute. I mean, it's something to do with Jerry Jones. He likes the anticipation, the built-up drama. I fully expect Dak to be, under center playing in week 1. Would not be surprised whatsoever if we don't hear something here pretty soon. You got to remember, the only thing you ever hear in the news is all the turned down contract. Blow all that stuff off. Don't read so much into everything in May. It's way too early for that. If we get to August and Dak Prescott is nowhere near a Cowboys facility, then we start worrying. But right now, May, there's just way too much time. So yeah, I'm sticking with Dak. He's still right now my quarterback 4 in my rankings.
Yep. I do want to quickly answer a question from Hazelnut. Hazelnut22. Chris is a Kennedy on Martha's Vineyard. Is Chris related to JFK? So Hazelnut, same bloodline, very different bank accounts. That's the best way I can put it. But yes, same bloodlines.
Very different bank account.
Very.
Not that I've seen your bank account, but I can just imagine. Let's see here. D'Anthony says, thanks, fellas. Nope, thank you. We had a question earlier. Don't remember who it was from. Wants to know. Oh, it's High. High wants to know who the number 1 defense is in the NFL. To me, it's between 2 teams. It's between Pittsburgh and between Baltimore.
I was going to go different. I was going to say it's between the Patriots and the 49ers.
Well, that's because you're a Patriots fan.
Well, then, all right, fine. It's the 49ers. I'll bump the 49ers up and remove my homerism. San Fran has the best defense for me.
I think right now, it's going to be between Baltimore and Pittsburgh for me. I love the addition of Calais Campbell going to Baltimore. I think that really helps the defensive line and the pass rush a lot. We already know that they have, weapons in the backfield. Is Earl Thomas going to be on the field or with his brother? That's still a question mark we have to answer. But, I mean, it's definitely between those two. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go Baltimore by a hair, and that's about it. Let's see here. Bertinelli 2003. Yo, Jake, are any of my Bears worth drafting this year? I'll still go with Allen Robinson. David Montgomery if he really falls in drafts, but honestly that's about it, unless it's a very, very, very late round pick and I go towards Anthony Miller, but that's about it for me. I'm not interested in Jimmy Graham or either quarterback. Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Allen Robinson and Tariq Cohen. Cohen's right now going close to the 10th round, and this is a guy who has low end RB2 upside with his receiving ability. So I think Cohen and Robinson are the 2 for me.
Jay and Smith out there paying it forward to the members in the chat again. Y'all better just salute him and drop him a thumbs up or something, because Jay taking care of y'all. It says, from the chat, we have Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs, or DK Metcalf. Which one do you guys have? So between McLaurin, Diggs, and Metcalf, you can only choose one, Chris.
I'm going to go Metcalf. I know he's probably going to be more of a boomer. He's going to have more boomer bust performances than the others. But I love his upside. DK Metcalf led the NFL last year in end zone targets. So I'm going to go DK.
I'm torn because I do like me some Terry McLaurin.
Mm.
I do. But I mean, as much as I think Josh Allen has a better year this year, I know the inconsistencies have been there on the deep ball. It's really between McLaurin and Metcalf for me. I think Metcalf is the safer option, though, in my opinion. I think that we kind of saw at times last year he was able to exceed a lot of expectations, and it's only going to be better this year. His second year in that offense with Russell Wilson, I'm going to go Metcalf also. Jay also says that he's a hardcore 49ers fan, but he thinks that the Bills' defense is going to be number one. Bills definitely improved on defense. A lot of people still don't want to give the Bills some credit. I know our own Chris Chouse in the chat is very thankful for you, Jay, because he is a diehard member of Bills Mafia. I think he wakes up every morning and throws himself through a table, to be honest.
Yeah, he actually buys multiple, folding tables just to throw himself through. And Chris Chouse did say, he said, Jay and Smith, we just became best friends.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, it's like a match made in heaven right there. I mean, Chris is so happy right now.
He really
is.
Should
we share a Patreon secret about Chris?
Yes.
Okay, so we do the audio podcast on Patreon. And the first time we did it, we recorded it through Zoom and then just pulled the audio from it. We thought about releasing the video on Patreon, but we just did the audio. When we turned on the camera and when we all entered the meeting room, there was something hanging from Chris's microphone. And it was a small enough window to where I couldn't really tell what it was. It kind of looked like a pillowcase or something. Nope, dude had his underwear wrapped around his microphone to be more of a pop filter. Now,
Chris, we love you, by the way.
Chris, I mean, I thank you for letting us say that. You probably wish I wouldn't have said that. But yeah, it was very entertaining. We laughed for a few minutes before we even started the show. And now every time we get ready to record something, we always are up there looking for the underwear on the microphone.
I'm waiting for him to get an actual pop filter.
I kind of like the underwear at this point.
You don't want him to, do you?
I kind of like the underwear. We're just going to need to videotape it. Let's see here. We're going to go 3 more questions, Chris, since it's almost 10:30. Been here almost an hour and a half. 3 more questions. First one we got is a great question coming from Ruben Kessler. Should I worry too much about strength of schedule when it comes to the defenses that I draft?
So when you're drafting your defense, yes, look at the schedules for the first 4 to 5 weeks of that schedule, because that's going to give you a really great head start, especially if you're someone that drafted the Patriots defense last year. I mean, they had a cupcake of a schedule last year, especially the first 6 or 7 games. So when you're going through your drafts and you are selecting your defense, yeah, strength of schedule for sure, but only early in the season. Don't worry about the full season. Once you get towards the last handful of games of the year, that's when you can start streaming your defenses.
Great transition again, Chris, because you're leading right into what I was going to say. We do strength of schedule. We do kind of a matchup calendar in our draft guide, but there's really 2 sessions of our strength of schedule that we highlight in the draft guide. That's who's going to start off quick, who has the best start to the season, and who has the best playoff schedule, because that is what really matters when it comes time to the fantasy football. I want to start hot and I want to finish strong. That's what we highlight in the draft guide. That's definitely one of the top sections that people look forward to. Fricker or Freiser? Can you put it in the chat or message me on Twitter? How do I say it? Is it with a Fricker or a Fricker? I don't know how to say it, but we appreciate you.
You're just freaking messing it up.
I'm just freaking messing it up all over the place. He says, good chats. See you next week. Absolutely. We appreciate you. M. St. G, what Patriots do you draft or do you stay away from? And everyone should check out Patreon. It's #HellaFire from M. St. G. So which Patriots do you draft or stay away from, Chris? Be honest. No bias.
All right. So I'm still going to draft James White. He's a PPR monster. He's going to get the targets, especially doesn't matter if it's Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer under center. James White's going to get his. So he's someone I'm still looking at. I'm still not sold on Sony Michel. I don't trust his knees. Julian Edelman's going to be 34 years old this year, you guys, but he is going late in drafts. He's going like 9th round. So I would be okay with James White and Julian Edelman. And as much as I like the promise of N'Keal Harry, I'm probably going to stay away from him.
Yeah. I'm not overly high on any of the Patriots this year. but I do have exceptions. I think James White is probably the number one on my list that I would trust. So much changing with Julian Edelman not having Tom Brady throwing in the ball. But N'Keal Harry at the very end of drafts, he's going undrafted a lot. It really depends on your league size and your needs. I just wouldn't count on them this year like I had in years past.
Agreed.
Jay is just feeding people. Jay is out here just like, I mean, he's hooking up the people in the chat. He said that he saw Keyshawn Vaughn in the chat. Is he worth grabbing? He's curious about Tampa running backs having the GOAT Tom Brady they're playing. Is the GOAT worth grabbing in an early round? And he's a big supporter of the draft guide also. So first question, Keyshawn Vaughn. Are you on board that hype train or no?
I am. I like his receiving ability. And if as long as his ADP doesn't start to climb, then I'm perfectly okay taking him towards, the end of the sixth, somewhere in the 7th round. That's kind of right around where I have him. But as long as he doesn't start to go up any further than that, then I'm perfectly okay with where he's at. Yeah.
Perfect. I agree. I love me some Keyshawn Vaughn also. Yeah. What about Tom Brady? Are you interested in drafting Tom Brady any earlier than his current ADP?
No. Tom Brady, even though he's a traitor, he's going in near the end, the middle of the 8th round. I think he definitely has top 10 fantasy potential. So I'm okay with him going, 8th, 9th round. Again, any earlier, if he starts creeping up into like the 6th or 7th round, I'm probably going to stay away.
Yeah, I have to agree. I do love the potential in that division. I'm not going to reach for Tom Brady. Keyshawn Vaughn, I do think that he beats out Ronald Jones because Rojo sucks. It may take a couple weeks for him to be a little bit more consistent, but not somebody who I'm overly, going after. Let's see here. Oh, it's Frick. It's Frick and Frack. Frick and Frack. So Fricker.
Okay, thank you. Perfect.
Thanks for clarifying. I'll remember it going forward.
You got it right the first time then, Jake.
I did. All right, so before we sign off, I got Hazelnut out here telling everybody to like the video so we can get to 200 before we sign off. I have no idea what we're at, but let's see what we got. It says here 123. We got we got a little bit of climbing to do. I don't know if we can get to 200 here in the next 2 minutes, but if you appreciate the content, by all means, hit that like button. All right, let's see here. Mike Evans or Chris Godwin? Pick one.
I'm gonna go Godwin.
Okay.
And I really have no reason of why I want one over the other. I just think Godwin's gonna get more targets.
Yeah, I do too. I think Godwin's a little bit more of a PPR option. Yeah. All right, we're going Jay and Smith.
Jay's back.
Jay, I mean, we greatly appreciate you. Everybody needs to collectively thank Jay right now. He says, last question, 16-man PPR strategy. Thank you, everyone. So we're going a little deeper. We're going deep, yeah. Chris. We got 16 teams. Obviously, you're going to be seeing names at the end of your draft that you are not familiar with. But in my opinion, the draft doesn't really change a whole lot. I'm not going to change my strategy, the first few rounds. Obviously, in a bigger league, running backs are going to go even faster. So I'm still loading up on running backs early. We still have a deep, wide receiver group. And I'm going to take my quarterback right around round 8 to 10 anyway. So to me, it doesn't really change too much. If anything, I would look to familiarize myself with some of the lesser known names later on. So you actually draft people who have potential of playing and having some sort of production.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I played in a 14 or 16 man league one time, and that's exactly what happened. Running backs went super early, very quickly. So I would, your first 2-3 rounds, really try to get as many top running backs as you possibly can and just build as much depth as you can throughout your roster.
Yep, 100% agree. Jay, we appreciate you. Everybody in the chat appreciates you. Everybody's sending you some thanks and some thumbs up. Great show of support of the community, and that's what this is all about, right? Is we're coming here to have some fun, to talk some football, to really just, hang out with each other for a while. We didn't share this on Twitter beforehand. We didn't put it on the community tab. This isn't something we were trying to get this massive crowd. No, we wanted to make sure that we took a little bit of time out of our night, out of our Sunday night, to just come hang out with you guys. And that's what's really more important to us, is just coming out here and being a part of the community, right? Not just creating a community and then saying, peace out, you guys have fun with it. We want to be a part of it with you guys. And there's not a lot of that on YouTube. So that's why we do what we do, and we greatly appreciate that support. Chris, you did great on your first live show on YouTube. You've done live shows on Facebook before.
Thank you.
But you handled it just fine here on YouTube, and I'm sure the people are going to be looking forward to having you back. Maybe we'll throw you to the Wolves during the season and throw you on a live show when we're like totally crazy on the screen. Maybe we can find a way to do a triple box, you, me, and Kyle. Maybe we could do a quad box with you, me, Kyle, and Chris, and maybe we could do a 5 box. I don't even know what that's called, and include Ethan.
Maybe I won't pee myself that time. We'll find out.
I mean, I don't know how to work it. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know what it would look like. I don't know if the quality would suck. I don't know anything about it. But you know what? That's something we should probably look at, because it would be a lot of fun just to be able to interact with you guys. I appreciate the guys out there in the chat, but having all of us on the screen would be fun to do every once in a while. So I'll put it on my to-do list, because I have no idea how to do that. But greatly appreciate the support of everybody out there in the chat. Everybody who donated to the channel, greatly appreciate that also. All we do is take that, turn it around, and find ways to give it back to the community. So we greatly appreciate that support. Hopefully everybody had a decent week, and that they can continue this week moving forward, right? We're trying to stay as positive as we can over here and give everybody that opportunity to come and just have some fun and talk some football, take pictures of Chris's feet, make fun of my bald spot, whatever it is you got to do just to have some fun. We're all for it. We're a bunch of boys in here, just kicking back, hanging out with the boys, right? It's kind of what this is like. I mean, Chris was drinking a beer earlier, just relaxing.
It's Sunday fun day. Come on.
That's right. Just here having some fun. But no. Oh, what's it called? Madden Plays says it's a quintuple box. I don't know if it's right, but we're going to roll with it.
I think I tried that in college once.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I did. I don't know if I did. Probably not. More than likely I didn't, but we'll see what we can come up with. We greatly appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your night. For myself and for Chris, we're going to go ahead and get out of here, because it's Chris's bedtime, right? So you guys have a good one. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great night.